Welcome everyone to another round of the conversations. Recently, I had a chat with Adam Curry, the podfather himself, for the second time here on the Mere Mortals. There was three main topics of conversation: podcasting 2.0, how it's almost evolved beyond podcasting, of music, the recent technological innovations of artists being able to connect with their audience deeper, and then of course value for value and how this is going to be the future of digital content creation. The first episode that we had a chat with him was focused a lot more on his career. So if you wanted to go back to that was episode 66. You'll find a link of that in the show notes. And just a reminder here that this is a value for value show. 30% of this is going to Adam himself. So I really do appreciate you boosting in of streaming sats and showing your support for the show. Other than that, let's kick it off. Let's do podcasting 2.0. So
okay.
I suppose one of the things that I've seen perhaps quite recently over like the last 6 months has been it's sort of moving beyond podcasting, I guess, at this stage. A lot of the focus, for example, is going into music. I know there was also looking at kind of video as well, and with the being able to do things through like PeerTube and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts just on like, have we kind of reached not the end point of the upgrades to podcasting, but we've done a whole lot of amazing stuff with transcripts, with accessibility, with value for value and the value tag and things like that. How much more do you kind of see on the podcasting side of things, of actually podcasting 2.0?
I think that we're really in a great moment in podcasting, certainly in the 2.0 area, because the podcast industrial complex has it's kind of starting to crumble in on itself. People are losing their jobs, which is not fun, but there was an overabundance of people being hired for writing and producing, and there was a lot of money flying around, mainly from the Spotify investments. A lot of people got acquired, so I think that's all kind of shaken out now. Spotify has all but capitulated. YouTube is kind of trying to do something, but it's really the money dried up when the interest rates and inflation hit. Then just all that free money that everybody. That's how this. I don't know if there's really any technology company that is profitable at the moment, but certainly not in podcasting. I mean, Spotify. They actually have they're a very unique company. It's a little harder for them to raise money in general. Some of the other publicly listed companies are not profitable. So follow-on offerings or just ways to raise money to keep the pump going, which is really what was happening. And not just in podcasting, but in all kinds of companies. So that's gone away. The cheap money has dried up. It's just not cheap anymore because it costs actual percentage points. So things have kind of slowed down, I would say. There's no money for big celebrity hires, and I think a lot of the celebrity hires really didn't pan out. It's not just me thinking it, as Spotify has said it as much. And at the same time, over in 2.0 land, we figured out some really important things. And as is typical, you never know where it's going to come from. You're not quite sure what little thing is going to hit or what's going to get people excited. And I would say the remote item tag or feature or piece of the namespace, whatever you want to call it, which really is quite meaningless to everybody except a technologist. But what it really means is that, and if you have a basic understanding of value for value in the Lightning Network sense, where you can stream Satoshis in real time to a podcaster and send a boost or a boost with a message, a boostagram. We now have the capability to do that when another piece of content is included in that podcast. And the first one that is almost logical is music. And a whole bunch of things kind of came together at the same time. We had a number of people had already been putting up their music on value for value, but Wavelake in particular. And we had them on the Podcasting 2.0 board meeting podcast. And we convinced them, when I say we, I would say Dave Jones and I, but Dave certainly a little more pushy, had convinced them to start auto-submitting RSS feeds to the podcast index. And along with that came another very simple innovation, which is the medium tag. And that medium tag is important because now an RSS feed can be categorized as something that pertains to what the content is. So podcast is an obvious one. And there's several others, but the one I'll focus on now is music. So you can say the medium for this feed is music, which means it's songs, typically. And so that made it possible to now include a song in your value for value podcast. And I call it wallet switching technology. The minute and literally down to the minute and the second when that song is playing, any streaming Satoshis or any other payments is going to the owner of the wallet of that song. So this all of a sudden got a lot of people excited in the music business because they've seen literally nothing for their hard work on, the 60 odd streaming platforms that are out there. So suddenly there's actual value coming in, way above and beyond what they've seen maybe in 5 years on some of their work. And it comes at a time where, podcasting is kind of, wow, what are we doing? What's the next new thing? And if there's one thing that I have been dreaming of for 20 years is how can we legally play music in podcasts? And when I say legally, make it so that the artists are compensated. And boom, it all came together. And now all of a sudden we can start putting music into our podcast. The artists are being compensated. Everybody seems to be pretty happy with the arrangement. We're not out of the woods on exactly how it all works, but there's all kinds of benefits in the value for value system, which including splits, value block splits, which you've talked about very concisely on your value for value podcast. So now you can start circumventing some of these institutions, which are really big black boxes for artists, which is ASCAP, BMI, publishing companies. There's something else called the Master Licensing Coalition or MC. There's all these black boxes where it's coalition sounds is always lame. And I've talked to people who are in this business, and we don't know exactly how it works either. They say the money sometimes comes out, and it's not a lot. So, and now now we're seeing. Even though there's no tool, well, that's not true. There is a tool, and that's really the Stephen Bell emporium of apps. He's built some tools so that you can fairly easily put a song, music into your podcast, have the wallet switch, etc. It all has to do with the creation of your RSS feed. So it is by far easy at the moment. But I think this is the next phase of podcasting, which will include this large demographic of people who have just like, when we started 2.0, it was a whole bunch of companies and people and podcasters who for 10 years were kind of not able to get anything done because Apple determined everything. And now there was this other entity and apps and we had an ecosystem. So now this is the same for artists. And I'm extremely excited about this moment in time. And it's for that very reason that I've started doing. I needed more podcasts in my life, but I'm doing it's like the 5th weekly podcast called Boostagram Ball, and I am having a Boostagram Ball. I'm so incredibly psyched up about what's going on, and so I think that it's blue skies, really, not just for people who want to do music-based programming, but just the other day, Tina and I, we do a podcast called Kyrin the Keeper, and we played a song which was relevant to the topic of our show, and then the wallet switches if you're listening to it in a 2.0 app, and it was really enjoyable. It's something that you really couldn't do before.
Yeah, it doesn't take much imagination to go, man, this could really just create almost an entirely new medium, just in the sense like, I was thinking, okay, you've got the chapters, so you've got digital art can be put into there. So imagine you had like a podcast and an audio file, or that's what the main thing is. But then, you've got this digital art perhaps showing up in certain chapters, and then, you recently, as in like the last week, there's been an ability for boostergrams to kind of be surfacing up as chapters. So that's kind of almost like that was a magic moment of this group. Do you mind if I explain what it is? Yeah, please go.
So it kind of came out of left field. for 3 years since we began, we've been trying to do something called cross-app comments, with the idea being that you could put a comment into a podcast app and it would show up on other podcast apps. And we haven't even talked about, replying to comments or anything like that. And there is a spec and it's implemented, and it just doesn't work. No one uses it. I mean, I publish it. I publish comments. The app developers aren't excited by it. They're not putting anything, really, there's no focus on it. And we've gone around this circle several times, and it just doesn't happen. And I've learned, it's like I can jump up and down, but if people don't want to use it, it's the other side of the coin of, well, people like using this, so it's what it is, whether I think it's the right way to do it or not. Now, the Fountain app, and I was wrong about this in the beginning, they were surfacing boostograms underneath each episode. And I initially said, I don't want you to do that. It's going to diminish the value of boostograms. And I could not have been more wrong. It actually, I think, added value because people like seeing their boostogram show up. They like showing their numerology. And it didn't hurt the overall value coming in that I could see. So, and people really enjoy it. And now they do have a system where you can comment on boostograms. But in general, I think it's just the list of boostograms show up.
Yeah, that's the main aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I've always liked this idea because it is possible to have boostograms from other apps show up there as long as you put a 1% minimum split into your value block towards Fountain, which actually you can do for your own account. So it's not even like you lose any money. And I've really always liked this poor man's podcaster API, which is, hey, there's a service I want to use, but I don't know how to tie in an API or anything like that. But if I add a split to my value block, then that service will magically just start to work for me. The initial examples were statistics. So I send something to Conchacks, I guess, or I put it into my Get Albi, and then I get stats, and I can see boostograms, all these things. But it's really kind of all situated around boostograms, and every boostogram is a value payment, and all the information that goes with it is quite rich.
Yeah, I actually, just on that note, Satoshi Stream, I've used them from the very get-go, and they are still the almost linchpin of my use of boostograms, because they have the really awesome ability to send them to a Telegram chat or to a Discord, and
exactly.
That's just been amazing.
And if I'm not mistaken, they started, I think, with doing this stuff with the TLV record. Now it was actually Sphinx, but then Satoshi Stream expanded on that, and even though it's not even documented, there's Boost Bot and stuff that shows up on IRC channels and all kinds of cool stuff that people are doing, all based upon this payment record, which it has a lot in there, a lot of information, although nothing necessarily identifying about the person paying, which is kind of cool. So it's still relatively anonymous, but it tells you what podcast, if it's a remote item, like it's a song, it'll tell you what song. I mean, there's all these different things are in there. It was really, really cool. And I was talking to Alex Gates, who was very opinionated, and I love that about Alex. And I was saying, hey man, we should be able to use boostograms kind of as a commenting system. And he says, I'm against forcing people to pay to comment. And I have fundamental problems. I said, okay, I'm cool with that. But how about this? Is it a valid use of chapters to have it show up there? And he couldn't find any problem with it. And so I suggested that on the board meeting, which was only last Friday, and Monday, John Spurlock had it working.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was phenomenal to see all of a sudden the same boostogram show up across all of the apps. Because the two things that I think every 2.0 app has: transcripts and chapters. And and you can still have your existing chapters. It works with your existing chapters. He already put in cool things like this is the top boost if you're the top boost for that episode. He puts in, the amount, what app was used, how long after publishing this boostergram showed up. I mean, just all this beautiful stuff. And I think that was an aha moment. It's like, wow, look what you can do with the information we already have, and how dynamic and exciting I think we made something almost overnight. And Spurlock gets value for it. So I just put him in the value block. I put him for 5%. It now shows up in all the apps.
Yeah, super, super cool. And this is where I was going on to, is this beyond podcasting now? Because I know another podcaster, Cole McCormick from America Plus. He's got he's planning on creating like a movies. He's kind of, that's like his thing. He creates like movies, and he was planning on doing it with AI. He was planning on using value for value music as part of this as well. And so then I'm going like, okay, well, he could there's so much you could do with that. You could have splits just going everywhere. Splits at different time periods for musicians, for digital content creators of art, for John Spurlock to be able to create a commenting system. Like you could do so much with all of this. And so then I'm going like, okay, is this even beyond podcasting now? Is this kind of creating an entirely new medium? The naming of these things seems to always happen much after the actual fact of the creation of the thing. So I don't know. I was just thinking that was kind of like a cool aspect to all of this.
I think what we're seeing is the absolute power of RSS being unlocked and unleashed, which is really, RSS has always been locked down. This is what it is. There's no changing. But you could always put a namespace in. And I think, what the podcasting namespace, I think, is probably such a successful project that I hope other people either add to the namespace, or maybe there's other namespace, and there are other RSS namespaces. But the functionality that is being created out of this really the rich environment of functions and functionalities, I think there's a lot more to come. I've been saying for a while, why wouldn't we have a resurgence of weblogs and RSS readers? People are getting pretty tired of all the algoized feeds. It's like we've kind of lost control over not just our lives, but our minds. With how these things work. And, you don't necessarily need to have information coming in a feed that everyone has to comment on. That's the annoying part, it seems. Like, I like getting information from an aggregated source like a Mastodon server. The thing that's probably the worst is all the comments, all the replies to, and it's very distracting. And I wouldn't mind going back to, it can be microblogging, doesn't have to be huge weblogs, but just, it could be just someone's stream of consciousness can be the same. But maybe we need to have some more control over that. And now we have payment mechanisms for value transfer. And the whole idea of like a retweet or a repost or a reblog, well, that can now be a compensated value item, no different from a piece of music in an RSS feed.
Yeah, I was. You'll see the comment I left for the boostergram for this week's, but I think I was saying RSS, BTC, and V4V are all I need, because I think there is something about that trifecta of those three, and that was, I mean, that's what I've really been honing in on, to be honest, is the similarities between all of these and why they seem to work so well together. Which is, it's and it gets back to like the core principles of things, which is, how they're permissionless, you can be self-sovereign, and decentralized. They allow for value transfer. All of them, like it's. I think there's the combination of those three really opens up a lot of doors for quite just a wide variety of expression as well.
I agree, and it's not very sexy, but RSS has been around, before podcasting, of course, 24, 25 years at least. And it still is a major underpinning of the web. It's still extremely valid. It just, it just works. It does exactly what it says it's supposed to do. And I love the fact that at Podcasting 2.0, certainly Dave and I were very set in our ways. We defend RSS. We've been around the block. We've seen the protocols. They've seen the formats. The first, quote unquote attack was Atom, ATOM. That was in the early days. And, I think arguably RSS has far exceeded the Atom usability. There's a lot of people who say, why don't we just do JSON? I'm like, because there's 25 years of stuff that already works, and it's easy. It's just there and everyone understands it. And you can easily add stuff that, a namespace if you need to have JSON. There's just something really, really beautifully simple about it. And it's kind of a shame when I see, when I see what is being done with Nostr, which, as far as I know, Nostr, is really an identity type protocol, or I'm not even sure what you call it. I mean, to have an identity that is you, that is cryptographically secured and provable, is fantastic. I think the idea that it's all focused on some kind of social network, I think, is sad. It's really I mean, I can even see where Nostr, the identity part, could integrate with RSS, but instead, it's kind of this, who needs RSS? We got Nostr. It's, censorship resistant. We can zap. It's like a whole bunch of things stuck to, it's like, Scotch tape in a ball. It just doesn't make sense to me, but I see so much energy. I'm like, we could use some of that energy in the RSS world, but maybe it's just not sexy.
Yeah. The and I'd say, like, so I'm, I was podcasting for almost a year and a half before I ever really figured out what an RSS feed is, which I think it's like the kind of standard thing. It wasn't really until I started getting into podcasting 2.0 where it was like, oh yeah, I should probably.
How were you distributing your podcast?
Yeah, so I was just using a host, but I didn't understand.
You didn't really know what it was doing.
Yeah, exactly. You just put it up on a host,
right.
and then your things go out.
And that's how it should be. People shouldn't have to understand how it works.
Correct. Unless you're like, like getting into the weeds and staying on the latest trends and stuff.
And this is the thing. If I can just go back to the early days of RSS and podcasting.
Yeah.
The big problem, really before podcasting even, around the same time, was the subscribe mechanism. There was no way to universally subscribe to a feed simply. This is why Apple became the de facto on-ramp, because they had the universal click here to subscribe with Apple, iTunes, your iPod. Twitter started off as Audio, a podcast company, and when they started, they were using RSS feeds, but because it was on their platform, you could easily subscribe, which they called follow, which I thought was one of the smartest things of that Twitter ever did, was instead of use subscribe, use follow. But that's always been the problem, is how do you make a universal subscription mechanism? And the default for that is really, okay, here's a huge database at this, now it's podcastindex.org, which I think, arguably we've cemented our place in history there, and everybody can tap into it. And so every app can make its own way of subscribing to a feed because they all have access to the feeds. But it's really a kludge when you think about it. If you could just subscribe to feeds individually, and of course then it comes back to search and finding stuff. But that's really the problem. That's why platforms win, because they are, well, they win when they work, but they win because they make it easy. They remove a bunch of very cumbersome steps that people typically can't be bothered to do. Yeah,
and then eventually the kind of platform goes away, right? If it's long enough. I mean, YouTube might be a counter example to that. They seem to have done very well with the video aspect, but in 20 years time, will they still be around, or will there be RSS video, video moving onto RSS?
I think YouTube is a phenomenal resource. There's no doubt that, you need to, how do I replace the battery in the fob for this particular model car? That's, you can't beat YouTube for that. It's like, oh, boom. All right, let me just look at the thumbnails. That's the same one I have. Click, 1.5 minute video. Thanks. As a educational resource, as a sharing resource, I think we as podcasters often think of YouTube as, this is where you do podcasts or shows or whatever. Yeah, that's an important part of YouTube, but there's a lot of other stuff. A lot of just, educational, tutorial, family stuff, cat videos. There's a lot of other stuff going on there. And I think that's a phenomenal resource. I've always wondered if YouTube actually makes any money. Because, what YouTube did, and this was the early days of really putting video online, is they made it free. And one of the hardest things was, okay, what do I transcribe this for the web as? It's like, what protocol, H.264, or what am I using? Now you just throw anything at YouTube, and it puts it into this, into their fabulous format, which I guess back in the day we called Flash. Yeah. Adobe, all these different type of things. So they really moved the ball forward on video online. Now, is it really the same as podcasting? Well, we could do, a very long show about that. But again, it's, they made it easy. Made it easy to follow things, follow people, find things. I don't necessarily think any platform does a great job the way RSS could do it, just for giving people exactly what they want. People think they're missing out. So, surprise me, give me recommendations, keep me in the platform all day long. And we're getting a little bit of fatigue, I think. I think people are getting tired of just scrolling. There's too much now. It was great when we had just Facebook and, and okay, add some Twitter. It was kind of, Twitter was for news, Facebook was for families, Instagram was for,
pictures,
yeah, and then influencers came along, and that's also been fun. Now TikTok was dancing, it's like, oh, okay, Snapchat is to make, to send stuff and make it go away, so there's no record of it. I think there's just general fatigue. It has to. There's no way. Our brains are getting overloaded. I know mine are.
Yeah, and that's why you kind of see them all adopting the same features, trying to capture those bits as well. Do you keep an active lookout for, I suppose, the most censorship resistant platform? Is that something you so because I get the feeling, just following kind of your career and history, the pirate radio, that was absolutely like the most censorship resistance at the time, and then moving on to MTV, and I don't know, is there any like thoughts in your mind about this is actually starting to become restrictive, or I want to try out this thing because it allows me to do things which I can't do elsewhere? I'm just a broadcaster, so that's always what and probably a radio guy. I've just always loved the idea of getting on a microphone and saying something and knowing that probably more than one person could hear it. And I very quickly understood the feedback loop, which initially was through mail or telephone, etc. But in the true sense of the word, broadcasting, I like saying things, knowing an audience that is out there will feel something, and whether I'm saying that or playing a song or whatever it is, I don't know, I've just always liked that idea, and I don't really care too much as to how I was broadcasting, but the restrictiveness of commercial broadcasting, licensed broadcasting, even amateur radio broadcasting, very restrictive. That's the most restrictive of all. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can't say and can't do. So for me, pirate radio was really just about the freedom to play whatever song, the stuff that wasn't being played.
podcasting itself, that was just, now I can be a broadcaster who can broadcast all over the world. You have to understand, I come from transmitters, like a 5-watt transmitter to a 500-watt transmitter that we built ourselves, and that could maybe reach, the city of Amsterdam, to now a system where I can broadcast and the entire world can hear it. Literally now wireless, that wasn't that way when we first started podcasting, but wireless on your phone. I mean, it's like, for a broadcaster, this is phenomenal that you can do this, and there's no boss, no one to tell me what to do, and it's kind of free.
Yeah. The I was just trying to think of like that transitions nicely onto the music and V4V music, which is, as we're talking about, kind of one of the almost like big steps forwards that's just brought in a whole bunch of new people to see like, oh, okay, this is something interesting and exciting. Where do you kind of see like the general future of music going? Because you've been really good at like picking trends being way before them. Do you also think there'll be, I don't know, is this something that could change the music industry for on a large scale, I guess?
Oh, completely. This is very disruptive, and it's something that we've been waiting for. And as I said, I've really been dreaming of doing this. As we've learned how to podcast, as we've learned how to broadcast, as many things have progressed, many things have stayed the same. You have too many people. Podcasting, if you want to make any money in it at all for real, like normal, like a real business, and not some magic money because money is free scenario, you can't have producers and writers and all this stuff. It's just not there.
Yeah.
I don't care what model you're using. It's just that's just going to be very, very difficult to make it a living. Technology has done so much and has improved even in the podcast era, from where we were to where we are today. To a $599 Rodecaster Duo that really does everything. That I've assembled, $50,000 studios that did as much, but maybe even a little less. So, that technology has improved. The horsepower we have on our desktops and the editing tools and the recording tools and the availability of microphones. Amazon that can ship it to you overnight. I mean, come on, all of this is new, or in the last 20, 25 years. By the same token, music has come a long, long way, particularly music production. The tools for that have become amazing. What is now possible? All the studios that I used to, go visit, when artists were recording or hang out in, like the Hit Factory in New York, or you name it, they're gone. They're completely gone. There's no necessity. I mean, yeah, there's still some because of the acoustics for the room, or maybe some for the history of bands who have recorded there. But really, I mean, a lot of this stuff is just done in small home studios. Everybody can do it. And because everybody can do it, there's a lot out there. But there's really what we lost along the way was the beautiful discovery mechanism of music. And that kind of worked through radio, with DJs who would hear someone local, or promote. I mean, really, the hits would be local things that happen. Elvis Presley happened in Memphis first. That's where and DJs on the radio, and then some other DJ like, I heard this guy's playing this song. It's kind of breaking out, and then he'll try it, and then people call up, and so that's how it used to go pre-internet. That's how hits started to come about. What I've relearned actually, is we've kind of been psyoped into this idea of what is a hit. So how does Beyonce do it how does Taylor Swift do it? How does she do it that almost every song of hers is a hit? And doing Boostagram Ball, I just did episode 11. I've realized along this way that as long as it's not crap and you hear it 3 times, it's a hit.
Yeah,
you can. And you'll like one over the other. It all depends. That's all. socio-geographic, and it can be the news that influences you, as to what you're feeling like hearing right now. And I think a good radio DJ plays into that. It's like whatever's going on in the world or at this very moment, and there might just be the perfect song. But if people hear a song 3 times in a row, they can usually sing it. And I caught myself waking up, like humming tunes, and like, I'm not singing the Rolling Stones. I'm not singing AC/DC, Back in Black. I'm not humming Taylor Swift here. It's not Blink-182. I know I'm dating myself all over the map. But I'm singing the Dorfels. I'm singing Wait Destiny. I'm singing. It's like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And then I just remembered, like, oh, this is good stuff. It's just I've played it 3 times and I'm kind of really digging it now. And now I want to play it again because I want to, not because a scheduling program told me, or some other record industry system makes me do it, or because the top 40 station plays a very small amount of songs, because that way whenever someone turns on the station, they'll hang around because, it's that song again. And, to sell you some commercials. It's for a different reason. And what we've kind of created, or what we've slipped into with this idea of value splits, is there's no need anymore for external large organizations to go collecting the money for you, because you can get it directly from the person listening to your music. And everybody along the way benefits from helping that transaction, from the podcast app that someone's listening to a show in and subsequently your song, to the podcaster, that can take a small percentage, to all the different pieces in between. And it's transparent. Everybody can see it. You can easily split that between composition and writing. Those are the 2 main factors. You can do recoupments on master recordings. You can do production, or I would say publishing rights, which are, these are all the different pieces of a song. You can split that up and write it in a contract, and everybody can verify it at any given moment. And as long as you have a minimum of 1%, you can verify, everybody can verify how much has been sent to that one song, because everyone gets the same information, not just how much you receive, but you see the total amount of each payment sent. This is, without knowing it, we really recreated a system that works incredibly well for music radio.
Yeah, I was listening to the latest episode as well, and I sent a message in, and I was just going, like, it's absolutely outstanding, outrageous how good this stuff is. Like
I saw your Boostagram. Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, I just because it gave me vibes of a similar song which I'd heard previously and had been stuck in my head, which was a very big hit. And I just went, wow, okay, there actually is, like you were saying, it's funny how technology moves, in the sense that the value time splits. I even had this idea when I was first coming into podcasting 2.0, where it was like, if I play a clip from someone, like, wouldn't it be cool if I could include them in on a split for that chapter or something?
You can. Yeah.
Which is now what you could do. But I had that thought like almost, 2 years ago or something. I've just never, I'm not as vociferous and wanting to get things done as such, like someone like Booberry, for example, on Behind the Schemes, where he's just a madman.
We know it's so beautiful. I mean, and this is why we have these board meetings. The song you were talking about, by the way, is Fly, I think. Enid Morel.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And, so, this idea of include, and I don't think it was even specifically around music, but the remote item, I think, probably started with the pod roll idea, which I think came from Sam Sethi and James Cridland. And that is, here's and it wasn't even based upon a value block, but here's a thing, and you can, and I recommend this thing, and it was another podcast or another episode, and based upon the the GUIDs, the global unique identifier, GUID, GUID, that's how we're starting to reference these things. And when you reference a podcast feed or an item by its GUID instead of a URL or a name, you get some real beautiful things, because then you can reference not just that piece of an MP3 file or an MP3 file, but everything else that comes with it: chapters, transcripts, value blocks, etc. So you're really now creating a web-like structure within RSS. And guess what? Web-like structures seem to work very well.
Yeah. I was just thinking of my own recent experiences of trying to fix up some of the links that I'd had in in my show notes, and the amount of times I've just had what's the term for it? Link rot, or breakage,
link rot, breakage. Sure,
it's crazy. So yeah, it is that is like one of the powerful things. Once again, it's like a confluence of 5 different things coming together to be able to all work at the same time. You know, having key send with on the Lightning Network. You know, that's a huge thing that was necessary as to make a lot of this work as well. I was just thinking as well about how there is that kind of desperate need for things to change. I was listening to a podcast by Rick Rubin. I think it was called Tetragrammatic, and you know, Rick Rubin, famous producer,
very famous,
very lot of different artists and very, very well known, and he's so much on the same vein of something needs to change, and he's also aware of like cryptocurrencies and things like that. So he's kind of on the right path of how things can change, but it's just funny, like what actually will be the one. I was following as well there was a thing on Ethereum where people were kind of like buying and selling NFTs as if they were albums. So you could kind of see that like they're trying to recreate something which had worked in the past. Mm-hmm. I think that gets into its own like kind of Ponzi-nomic problems of people buying and selling, and it's not actually about the music; it's about the being able to make a profit. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Which I think ultimately fails. But that you can just sense there is a need of things need to change, and you know, listen to Ainsley or. I had a chat with Julie as well. A similar experience.
Oh, how long? How many hours did you chat with Julie?
I think it was only like 1.5, but
I got to hand it to Julie Costello, man. Ainsley's mom, manager, business manager.
Momager.
And yes, she's a momager, but
that's what she has called herself.
She does. Okay. Well, she and her husband Jim. I mean, they're very serious. They've been in Nashville. They understand the music business, and I'm very pleased that they've been put into our lives, because together we will figure out what needs to be done. Because really, the back end is where it's all so messed up. And you know, and it's very logical for people to come into or see what's happening with the internet and really want to you know, to make it work, but they're bringing this legacy architecture and infrastructure. Whereas I think, you know, I'm sure you've seen that David Bowie's interview where he talks about the internet. I think it was like 1998 or 1999. And he says, we have no idea this alien monster from outer space is going to change everything completely. And I'm on board with that. I think that, you know, it's just not going to work the way it used to. It's just not. I mean, everything else is broken. It's still, you know, newspapers, publishing, television, radio, it's all still there. It's all still hanging on. But this is, you know, in finance, they say, how do you go bankrupt? Well, really slowly, and then all of a sudden it went really fast. I think that's what's happening to all these traditional systems. Newspapers and even online, you know, they don't have a model. I mean, we have to just go back to, I mean, and all of this comes down to the value for value concept, which is the only way I see these things working. And it really democratizes everything we're doing. When you can't when the gatekeepers don't matter, then, you know, then it's just much harder to lock people out and get them to pay, you know, force them into paying a certain amount.
Definitely.
So what people don't understand, certainly in the United States, but I think it's worldwide, newspapers daily publications, broadsheets, etc., they made their money through classified advertisements. That's how they made their money. People paying to put a little ad into the paper, and half of your paper, the back half, was filled with this. And it was really important for communities, for local services, goods and services. I remember on Saturdays, I would wake up and I'd look at because then they'd have the car edition, and you could look by brand. Like, oh, it started with Audis, BMWs. And I didn't have the money for any of this, but at least you could look at, oh, that looks like you call the guy up. Can I come by? Can I take a look at the car? Now, this was how newspapers made their money. And when Craigslist came along, it was gone. It literally disappeared within a matter of years. And that's when they lost all their true revenue.
Yeah, it's there's a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death. I think you've read it before or heard of it.
Yes, it's a classic, yes.
Yeah,
Neil Postman.
Yeah, correct. And I remember in it he was talking about, I can't remember why he got onto the text and newspapers, but he was talking about when some of the first things that newspapers were doing were these kind of classified ads, and because he was talking a lot about advertising in this book, and yeah, the first ads were so rudimentary compared to the kind of crazy, wacky marketing stuff that goes on now, where you need PhD psychologists, a team of them, coming up with the optimal way to get this thing to sink into your brain an extra 5%. But yeah. Even then, the power of the newspapers was very much about the ad and just being able to show like the kind of the aspect of like, I'm willing to pay something to showcase this in front of people. Hence, that is where the value is actually coming from it. So yeah, very interesting in that. Before we get off the music as well, so you were just talking about how everything's going to change, but there is kind of these legacy systems do stick around. Obviously, with the value for value music, some jackass is going to do something stupid and put up music that's not theirs, or the kind of scammy type behavior that always comes with new things, especially when there's value and money being involved. Do you think there's any I don't know, is there any way it could go wrong and it could get nipped in the bud by a very passionate music industry company or something like that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it'll take such a long time before any of what we do matters to them. I mean, they've got their system locked in.
It's kind of like Bitcoin, I guess, in that respect, where it takes a long time. When it could get shut down, no one wants to do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically and legally, I mean, look, anybody can sue you for anything. Anybody can arrest you for anything. I mean, that's just a fact. But what are they going to spend their resources on? If people are going to start playing Taylor Swift records and streaming sats to someone for it, yeah, that's going to cause a problem. But I don't really. I see, as I said, blue skies. I really don't see an issue. I think we have to get it's not going to be on the radar for a long, long time. And the music business is $8 billion global business. I think.
Yeah, that's I've
is that kind of the
numbers.
number?
Yeah, that just sounds so small as well. I don't know if it's because I've been listening to too many finance podcasts where it's like this much trillion got printed this last year or something. Right. So I don't know if my aspect of numbers has been distorted.
Well, if we just look at Spotify, what is Spotify's earnings? Well, you kind of, I mean, right now, honestly, the music business is TikTok. I mean, Spotify, has its place, but what TikTok is doing, TikTok is where new records are being, new hits are being created. And it's exactly the mechanism. And the way they do it is TikTok has a blanket license. They license it from all the record labels and the publishers. And they allow their their TikTokers to use that music in their little dance videos, and then whichever ones catch, that becomes a hit. And I'm sure there's all kinds of algoing going on, like let's push that one, let's push this one. I mean, that's just normal. That's it. Hey. Labels and the record industry has tried to get radio stations to do their business for them for since its inception, and a lot of that just became all one later on. Instead of having to go to all these local radio stations, just go to one now. One music director at iHeart, and he runs 100 stations around the world. And I put this one in heavy rotation. Okay. So the same is being done with TikTok. It just, TikTok has this extra element of it being just the short. It's the hook. They got dances, everything. It's like a little mini kind of MTV thing going on there. So there's a lot of money going on with all that. So until we really show up on the money radar, I don't see any problems. I really don't. And even then, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Have you ever? So the general thing with you is you're 10 years too early on a trend, or with podcasting, with things like that. Has there ever been a trend where you've kind of got it wrong? I'm trying to think. Like, you invested a lot of energy into creating a podcast network. I've forgotten the name of that. Podshow, yeah. Which and now it's one of the things where you're like, you can't monetize the network. Mm-hmm. Has there ever been anything where you're like, oh, I think this is really going to take off, and then it's, I don't know, just fallen flat, or it has gone nowhere, or incentives went wrong and kind of morphed into something you didn't think it'd be?
Well, no, I think that most of the things I've said this is going to take off didn't, and it came back 10 years later. That's typically how it goes. Yeah. Which is why I'm not a billionaire or a trillionaire. But I think, podcasting 2.0, the confluence, it had been 10 years of Apple doing podcasting and being at the center of it. So maybe this was the tipping point for me, where I said, oh, hold on a second. This is not going right. There was no innovation here. It's just, no, you guys can't be the boss. We're not going to let that happen. So, and also, I'm not looking to own or anything, or become rich, or have a company, or any of that. This is just for legacy, so everybody can use it. This is really altruistic. I want to use it. I want this stuff, not for any other reason than I just want to use it. And along with that comes a very long history of understanding having a lot of money isn't all that great. You can only really sleep in one house at a time. Value for value is an outstanding way of running your business, your life, your family, your community. So I come with a little bit of life knowledge now. And I would say on the music side, I've seen all this crap for 30 years, 40 years. It's like, oh, here's a little change. And it's not me. I'm not doing the changing. I didn't, Dave Jones and I, we decided to set up we had no idea if we set up Podcast Index, what it would become. We really didn't. We liked the idea of a namespace. We created the namespace to put the Lightning value block in there. That was really the reason for the namespace, not for all this other stuff. So out of all that has come, not from us, but from a group of, people who are just somehow drawn together and have ideas and want to work together, and all come with their own experiences. It's just happening. So I didn't create Wavelake. I didn't create the remote item. This came out of the group, out of people having ideas. And as you said yourself, I had this idea 3 years ago. You say, yeah. And then somehow it swirled around the group, and then someone, Alex Gates wrote it up, and Stephen Bell implemented it, and then it kind of went from there. And then all of a sudden, all the app guys are baking it in. You can't manage that. It just happens. I personally think it's from a much higher power. But that's just me.
Yeah. This was a question I actually had for you that I didn't get on the previous one was how come I hadn't really heard of value for value before? Because this is the thing that really captured me. My story was when I first found podcasting 2.0, I thought it was like, oh my god, chapters, tags, transcripts, like this is revolutionary. But it took me a while to figure out. Oh no, it's actually value for value. That's I find the most revolutionary idea that I've probably ever come across in my life. It was a thing that just like shook. It kept me up at night. That's how I can explain it. I was literally dreaming about it and waking up and being like, oh my god.
Wow. Value for value, the overall concept or the implementation in podcasting 2.0?
More, I guess the concept of it, because I suppose value for value. So for those who don't know, this is something that you and John C. Dvorak created through No Agenda. And I actually went through probably about your first 100 episodes and bless the person who has created chapters because I didn't want to get through all of the old news and politics stuff. I wanted to get through to like, okay, where are you talking about the value for value or, creating a community of listeners so that the kind of behind the podcast almost, even though you're talking about it on it. So I went through probably, like the first 70 episodes and I saw your struggles. I saw like going from, this is actually starting to take off. People are listening. A lot of people are listening to, we'll do it. We'll ask for like $2. And then
is that what we started? I thought it was $3, but it could be $2. I'm not sure what we started with.
Yeah, I thought it was $2. And then I even made a note of here on, there was one particular episode which was pretty funny because John was talking about how, so it was episode 28 around the 1 hour 30-ish mark. And he was really doubting that people would pay $150. And, then 30 episodes later, you're getting much bigger donations coming in and things like that. So basically value for value was, I suppose, coined by you, at least the term value for value, but you can see concepts of it from earlier you talk about how you've had the 3 T's, time, talent, treasure, and that was from more, the religious context that you got that from. Is value for value just, it's so new and it really only applies in the digital medium that this is why it's not like a broad scale term that people might have heard of before and was really only in the kind of no agenda world. That at least that was kind of my perception of it.
Yeah. I would say that the first Patreon came along many years later because we're actually, tomorrow is our episode 1600 and in a week, it'll be our 16th anniversary.
Yep.
So
awesome. Congrats.
Pretty much, thank you. 15 years, and we never had a fight. 15 years of value for value, which has done just incredibly well for us in regards that, we have a nice life. We work. We do 2 shows a week, but it's really everything we do is show prep one way or the other. The idea of donating is not new. I think value for value became a concept for 2 reasons. One, when we decided, give us whatever you think it's worth. We didn't even call it value in the beginning. We just said, what is this worth to you? And we were always looking for the pitch. How do we pitch this to people? Because, we're very familiar with advertising, with host-read advertisements.
Call to actions.
Call to actions, all this stuff. We've done every single version of the model, just in our professional lives, not at all on No Agenda. And to be very, very honest, we not only did we realize, the minute you have advertising, then you can't say certain things because some advertisers just won't like the F word or the S word or whatever. And and we're like, we don't want to have any meetings. We don't want to meet with executives. We don't want to meet with advertisers. We're not more interested in doing the show than that. But of course, as things went along, it's like, we do kind of need to be compensated. Otherwise, this show we just can't continue this way. We have to find out how to make it a business somehow. Very early on, we said, you know what? We're just going to treat you as producers. This is where the time, talent, treasure came from, which is you can help as a producer in many ways. We need money. So if you can't do anything else, then send us some money, whatever you think it's worth, or if you're getting something out of this show. We studied mega churches. We looked at nonprofits. We looked at so many different models, and there was really nothing that completely fit what we saw. Patreon came along 10 years, 12 years later. And they had kind of the idea, but then they too went into, subscribe, and everybody wants that recurring revenue because you can't really build a solid business on maybe people will give me something this week. You can't go to a venture capital firm and say, oh, so here's our business model. We ask people to send us money and it's different each time. Well, that there's no metrics. The only metric we have is, can I pay my rent? Can I buy my groceries? That's the only metric we've ever had. We actually have, for over a decade, have never really looked at statistics. It wasn't until John Spurlock came along with OP3, like, let's take a look. What does it say? Okay, well, that's interesting. Doesn't matter. Our metric has been, can we continue to do this? Can we continue to do this full time? By enough revenue coming in for us to be able to live. And, look, we're living comfortably. That's great. Then we don't have to do any side hustles, no other gigs. So the reason why it's not popular or well known is because it's completely foreign to the modern commercial world. It's, in the beginning, and now we garner a little more respect, but it's like, you're grifting, you're begging for money, how pathetic, stuff like that. And we're like, okay, well, I don't know. Someone just gave me $500. So I don't know. Call me pathetic, but I can do it again next week because someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being pathetic if that's what happens.
Right. And we use, like all kinds of, we experimented with so many different ways of talking about it. John has a classic story. You may have heard it once or twice in your research about this little meat shop, this little butcher shop where he'd drive by every day and think, I should go in there. And one day it was closed. He said, I never supported them. I never went in, never did anything. I only had to go in once or twice. If everyone did that once or twice, that place would still be open. And that's basically your value for value proposition. Now we've expanded that. And everything has come from the audience, from the producers. I mean, the initial $1,000 aggregate knighthood was a suggestion from someone, I think. We came up with the rings and stuff like that. And we did that for many years until someone said, hey, I've hit 1,000. I have my ring, but I don't feel good. I want to reach a higher level. Okay, well, we'll just continue with the peerage. You'll do, baronet, baron, viscount, duke, grand duke, all this stuff, and we'll come up with different. And you don't get anything. I mean, it's just a title. Yeah, we have a ceremony, and it's official, and you can call yourself that. And there's a map, I guess, where you can claim a protectorate. So this is all stuff that we've never been afraid to take advice from our producers who say, hey, try this, and if this works, and then when it does, we'll just run with it. So it's a very interactive process, which I think in the 2.0 model with boostograms, I mean, that's something special. I mean, you have to understand, people are sending you messages with money attached.
It's insane.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It really is. And I don't even see it as money. I mean, it's just value. It's just the numbers are more important. The numerology is more important. What people are saying is more important. And then at the end of the week, you go, oh, well, that's nice. That added up a little bit. That's cool. So all these things, it's just been such a natural evolution. Is it for everybody? No. Is it really the way to go? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, there's obviously you can't run all businesses this way, but in the ephemeral world of digital content, what's it really worth? I mean, what is it really worth? There's just ones and zeros. I mean, what's money? It's paper. Or Lightning, it's ones and zeros. So what is it really worth? Well, that depends on the value you prescribe to it. So I just can't know what value someone puts in the work that we do. It's just an MP3 file. If something in there made them feel so good that they want to send something back to us or do something nice for us or promote us, well, that's how life works. That's how Jesus works, actually. But that's another story.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the kind of almost religious aspect of it, which is the ethos behind it is so. It's so like the philosophy was kind of what spurred me to create the Value for Value show, because I'm a little bit inclined that way. But it's you have to have the ethos of kind of like people are good in essence, that people will contribute to the show, and that it will kind of work out. Of faith, it will work out in the end. You don't have this guaranteed kind of metric income of day in, day out of like what is something for nothing. There's so many core aspects which I think do relate over onto a religious context for sure.
You're giving something. It starts with us. We're giving something. We're putting something out there. We're asking, there's no gates, no hurdles, no nothing. Here it is. Please take this, enjoy. And then we ask, if you liked it, if there's some way you want to send some value back to us, we will gladly accept that. And if you do that, we will acknowledge you. That's the basic, simple thing. That's the premise. I was talking to a good friend of mine. He's in the Netherlands, and his name is Robert Jensen. And he has had a very successful radio and television career, actually made quite a bit of money, did talk shows, and he just got so sick of the broadcast system. And he said, I'm tired. I'm just going to do my own podcast. And he does it on video, but it's also audio. And he was trying to kind of figure out what model to apply. And this was probably 2020, beginning of COVID. And he called me up and I said, dude, let me tell you how we do it. Let me just give you my basic overview of Value for Value. And it's very difficult for people who are just used to getting a big paycheck for doing their job. It's very difficult to then say, oh, could you please send us some money because we're just doing this and this is the only way we make it work, and we're doing this as a big group basically. And he's been very successful with it. Now, recently, I guess maybe 2 months ago or so, he called me and he said, I'm weak. He said, what's wrong? So I'm feeling weak. I said, I could also just say, I said, I have, hundreds of thousands of people watching or listening. I'm sure that if I just say, hey, you got to give me 10 euros a month and you can only get it behind the paywall, I'm sure that I'd make $1 million a year. And I said, well, possibly, could you get 10,000 people to give you 10 euros a month, which would be 1.2 million. I said, it's possible, but here are my questions. One, how do you grow? I mean, now do you have to do content outside of the firewall to lure people in? I mean, so you're basically locking in your growth. And two, now you've just changed the entire balance between you and your audience. Now they're giving you 10 euros and they expect something from you. So there's no more of this, I'm going to take a week off, or I did 30 minutes instead of 45, or they're going to get pissed off. And now you're only going to get negative stuff. I'm canceling my subscription. I can't believe you did this. Whereas with value for value, you don't like what I do? Okay, fine. You don't want to send any value? Fine, that's fine. And I feel really fine about that. Even if you send me a nasty letter, which we barely get, that's okay. It doesn't matter. People who appreciate it will support it. And you don't need that many. I think we really have on any show. Now, we've been around for a long time. But we probably have 400 donations a show. The majority of which, like the overwhelming majority of which is below $50. But up in the top, there's people who are 200, 300, 400, 1,000, all kinds of different amounts. But there's the big majority, the vast majority is under $50. Now we have.
I was going to ask about that because they don't get the recognition in terms of the big grandstand in the actual value for value sections, but that like hasn't disincentivized them from not doing it. So it's not like you only have 150 and above. It's you actually do have a lot beneath that.
Yes, and I think the reason for that is a lot of it's the same people. So people will give a monthly amount, and then from time to time a boostagram, because it literally comes with a note. Everybody knows, and this is beautiful to see, that it all counts. So you can be doing lower amounts, but one day it's going to be enough for a knighthood.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so there is a recognition at some point, just a longer payoff. Yeah.
Yes, and it's not to say that we don't read it. If people send notes with those lower, I read every single one. I've replied to lots of people outside of the show. They say, "Hey, I'm just a $10 a month. I don't care. That might be a lot for you, my friend. So what can I do for you?" And I do like answering emails and seeing this as the No Agenda Nation as a huge family. I really enjoy that, and it is my family. And everything I've done, quite honestly, No Agenda Nation has been there. Podcasting 2.0, No Agenda Nation was right there. Every podcast I've been in, every project I'm involved with, they're there. They all show up, and they're always the first adopters, and they're always the ones to try out cool stuff. And you'll see a lot of people named Sir such and such. That's all No Agenda people.
Yeah, and that's the really cool aspect of the community building that also is very appealing to me. The money side of things has always been, if that's kind of like my fifth priority. The lower down it gets, the better.
Hey, Kyrin, what do you do for rent? What do you do to pay the bills? I don't even know.
Adam, really. I destroyed the planet by being a dirty coal miner. So I had quite a bit of savings from that when I used to do that. So, and then once you have,
you were literally mining coal.
Yeah, literally that was my job.
Nice.
I was, engineer technically, so I wasn't picking it up myself. But
and do you really believe you destroyed the planet doing that?
No, it's just
okay.
Funny,
all right, all right. Just checking. With
everyone uses coal.
Yeah,
if you don't,
coal makes the world go round still.
Yes, absolutely. I've done the research to like how much zinc solar panels use.
Don't even
do a
get
lot
started.
of mining for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I pay the bills, I suppose. Just having done that in the past, also being like relatively thrifty. I don't spend a lot. I'm relatively frugal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I certainly would love podcasting to kind of be the main thing for me going forward. But yeah, once again, like money, it's good when it's boring. That's what I found out. When it's just kind of in the background, I'm not focusing on it, I'm not chasing it or anything like that. That's when my life tends to be going better.
Yes, absolutely. You can only exactly. I could give you a lot of insights on that, but the bottom line, yep. I don't do what I'm paid for. I do what I'm made for. That's the secret,
amazing.
And I love what I do. I really, really love it. And it wasn't until late in life that I really figured it all out. I was trying all kinds of things, but I would say 2015, around when I was 50, I just said, and I was day trading and doing stuff like that.
Oh, no.
I'm so, and I was doing the podcast, always doing the podcast. I'm like, I'm just going to focus on podcasting. I'm just going to focus on that. It's what I'm good at. It's what I enjoy the most. It gives me the least stress. I really like doing it. I have decades of experience. So I'm just gonna do that. And once I really started to focus on that, everything just really took off. And podcasting supported me.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to actually ask about when you were trying out all the different methods with value for value. So my co-host Juan, he's come up with a couple of ideas, and I'm very hesitant for anything that involves money and incentivizing people to, if you boost in this amount and you get to the top of the boosting, we'll then put you in like a 5% split for the next month, and then that kind of almost like Ponzi-like, using money as an incentive to do things. And I've kind of seen, a similar, Sam was doing something similar with PodFans, and I'm glad he's doing that because I want to see how that experiment goes. But have you ever experimented with anything like that where it's, I don't know, money, using money as an incentive for people to support in?
No. And that is because I have and Dvorak and I would say everybody can make money with podcasting, but what you do has to be an outstanding product.
Yeah.
And it's just not, so Sam is, in a way, he's taken the podcast app and he's creating a platform, a gamified platform. So that's something different, and that by itself may be an outstanding product, but there's 4 million some odd podcast feeds. There's probably 400,000 that are really truly active. Is that maybe the what is the real environment from that is really a good product? And that's all in the eye of the beholder, of course. There's lots of, here's what I love about the No Agenda Nation. So No Agenda Stream, which is this beautiful concept of people are doing podcasts, but they're doing them live, or if they're not live, they're rebroadcast on the stream, but a lot of them are live. And they have the chat room, which is just there 24/7. It's been there for over a decade. And these people all support each other. And how big are the audiences? A couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand. I'm not quite sure, but they're all supporting each other. And there's something about that just proves that as long as you have an audience, as long as you have some that will support you, it doesn't really matter. And you don't have to do any tricks or gimmicks. Just ask people to support you. And that support, what that support needs to be is up to you. But if you don't create value, if what you're giving is just giving money back, I mean, I've never really tried that. I have no idea if that'll even work. That is the definition of Ponzi.
Yeah.
Like the magic money machine. Put a nickel in, and 25 will drop out the bottom. I don't know. No, I don't. That doesn't see. That's people say, well, why don't you do merchandise? Well, no, because I want people to support the work, not the T-shirt. This has always been my thing. It's like, no, I don't. If you're gonna send value to us, do it because you value what we're doing, not some ancillary thing, not a bumper sticker or something like that. The night ring, it's just a token of appreciation because $1,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so it does cost us some money to maintain enough sizes. It's kind of bespoke thing like that. but that's where it should come from. Please send me value because of the work we're doing. You have to be. I don't want you. It shouldn't be transactional, I guess, is maybe what I'm saying.
That's 100% agree with that. And I don't imagine that the average person who is donating $10 a week or $10 a month is viewing it in this. Every time that goes out, it's like I'm this one step closer to the ring, or getting Lord of the Rings type vibes.
In fact, it's quite the opposite, actually. And when people email me and say, "Hey, man, I've been supporting you with X amount per month, and one day I hope to be an executive producer," and I always say, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have to." We get people who will send us emails apologizing. Oh, I gotta stop my monthly because times are tough. And I'm like, of course. Stop. Come back when you can, or never, or whatever. Don't people feel bad? They don't feel bad. It's okay. It's really okay. It's all good. But it's heartwarming when people feel so attached to the support. But again, it's all just whatever you can do. And if it's not monetary, then try to get someone to listen to the show, or promote it in some other way, or maybe there's a boots on the ground report you can send. This is all valuable. It's all, and people, and there's a lot of people who've never sent any monetary value, but do all kinds of stuff. And I let them know. I said, just so you know, man, I really value what you do here. I'm always very clear to say, hey, you sending me this clip, that's highly valued, highly appreciated. Just so you know.
Yeah, I was chatting with Sir Bemrose the other day, because I'm hopefully we'll be able to get maybe the Value for Value show onto the stream, or maybe one of the book reviews, or who knows, even the Mere Mortals in the future. And I was just asking him, like, what's the kind of like process of doing this, because he's the one who
tell me, because I don't really know. How does it work?
Well, we only had a very brief interaction, but it came across very clearly. He's like, look, can you send me the link to your RSS feed? I just want to listen to it a bit, make sure that it's, of good quality, that it kind of fits in with the ethos of what, the no agenda stream is about. And so, there's someone who's just filtering, putting in a lot of time and effort to make sure there's quality appearing on something, which, he doesn't even, he doesn't own No Agenda or anything like that. So it's but he is part of it, and that's kind of the once again, that community aspect, the things that are way more important than money. That you couldn't pay someone to spend that much time and effort and care.
No. In fact, when after a couple months ago, I realized that, he really does. He manages that whole stream, the whole thing, and he's always in the chat room. I said, "Hey man, why don't I put you in the value block? When we do the live show." She's like, "What?" Yeah, let's put you in the value block. Yeah, for the live shows, you're in the value block. Done. Mm-hmm. In fact, we've been putting artists whose artwork is chosen. People who do a lot of clips on a regular basis. I mean, No Agenda gives away most of its value block.
Yeah. Is John coming around to the boostergramming and things like
that? No. He has a real stick up his ass about Bitcoin and everything. He thinks it's stupid. And I don't know what to do. I can't do anything.
Yeah, no, don't try and evangelize. That's
why I'm super happy. He's like, "What's all this boostergram stuff?" I said, "It's going to anyone but us." Oh, okay, that's fine. All right. It's going to all other people who help out with the show. Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, good. Then I'm fine with that.
That's really funny.
Yeah. It does. Look at the block. Look at the value blocks. I mean, all this is going everywhere else. It's fine. Jeff Smith, people who've done all kinds of stuff for us. No, it's fantastic. And now Spurlock will be in there with his new service. I want to put the boostergrams in into the chapters for no agenda. I mean, all that stuff. Yeah, that's
I'll definitely
fine by me.
out.
Fine by me.
Definitely check out a show with all that going on. That'll be super cool.
I'm going to do that tomorrow, so it should be working.
Beautiful. Do you ever find I don't know, a distorting of the ethos, or even if there's like a next level hidden to it? One of the reasons I first emailed you and asked, like, pretty please, Adam, can I create the Value for Value show? Because I kind of wanted your blessing in a way. I didn't want to make sure I'm like stepping on toes, or, you know, for me, it's very much like a history type thing. It's about the ethos, the philosophy, and sort of, you know, almost a recording of history that's going on now. I'm talking about the value time splits and technology that I think helps enable it. Which I was wondering also as well with, you know, because you're very reliant on PayPal. Is the technology evolving portion of Value for Value is very much about keeping up with the times as well? You know, what are new ways of sending and creating value between people in a digital world that we live in?
Well, first, let me say that I'm honored that you are doing a podcast called Value for Value. I love that the idea is getting out there. Now people don't even know the origin of it. Oh yeah, we're Value for Value, man. Like,
yeah, that's really cool.
They don't even know where it comes from. And even though, Bitcoin Magazine hounded me, write an article, write about Value for Value, write about it, about the Value for Value music, etc. So I write an article with my wife, actually, Tina. She helps. Actually, I wrote an outline, threw it through ChatGPT, and she got pissed off and said, I'm going to rewrite this. This is horrible. She's a professional writer. And so we write this article. It's like 1,000 words, 750 words, exactly what they asked for, and send it to them. And it's for the printed magazine. And it never comes out. Instead, they have this whole other piece written by someone else. And it's about Value for Value and Wave Lake and Nostr and Boost, and Podcasting 2.0 wasn't in there at all, as far as I know. But I wasn't mad. In fact, I see that they're talking about Value for Value, and that really made me happy. Like, okay, people are talking about Value for Value, this idea. There's a website, valueforvalue.info, which their Gigi put together. And we worked on the content together, a little collaboration. And he set up the website. And, it's just kind of there. And I can send people to it if they want to get a basic idea. So having the concept out there is beautiful. I love it. And no one needs to know where it comes from, as long as people understand the basics of what it is. And it's at least something people can use instead of begging, donations, buy me a coffee, tipping. No, that's not what Value for Value is. So I love that. Now,
yeah, leave an Apple review.
Yeah, exactly. The concept of the technological part behind it, really the pure idea didn't even start. The boostergrams weren't even a part of the initial idea. The initial idea is the pure Value for Value is when you press play and you're receiving MP3 bits coming in, and you're sending out Bitcoin bits on the outbound, and you determine. And it
doesn't have to be Bitcoin, because the way you wrote the spec, it can be anything. Yeah, so
it can be anything, and no one's implemented anything else. So I'm just going to think it's going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was, it's true Value for Value when you actually can track. Okay, I'm listening now, and I know that this is worth 10 cents a minute to me, or $1, or $100, or whatever it is. That was the initial idea. As that grew through the group, Boost came in, Boostergrams, the power of having that mechanism right there in the app came in. And all the while I'm thinking, I'm really happy this exists, because if for some reason PayPal, our main source of value income, goes away, we at least have a backup. That's what I've always thought. And you'll see how quick my partner all of a sudden likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we really got demonetized or deplatformed from PayPal, which I doubt, because we have an account manager, and they've been nice to us. We have had no problem with them. I know a lot of people have problems with them, but it's worked quite well for us for 16 years. So we're happy, and we hope it continues. If it doesn't, well, we have a good backup, a very good backup.
Yeah, because it's certainly growing in terms of. I did an episode of how it was. You had this great. I bookmarked it ages ago. Of there's 58,000 sats a day flowing through the value for value system, and now a year and a bit later, it's closer to 1 to 2 million. It's about 1 to 2 million. Yeah.
Really? I have not looked at it in a long time.
And it was so cool kind of going through that and seeing that and being like, wow, that really took me by surprise as well, because I didn't remember it being so small. And I came in a little bit later, so but it was still, I somewhat missed the Sphinx days. I did try it out actually. And I can see why you guys talk about it the way you do. Once again, it was a great innovation. But now, looking back, it's like, oh my God, it's so clunky. So how could we have used this at all, sort of deal?
Let me just take a look at the latest stats. Wow. You're right. It is about 1 million a day, isn't it?
Yeah. And
wow.
I've seen it bigger as well on some particular days. Just
I can see. I can see the spike here, like 1.6 million, 2 million. That's amazing. So a monthly basis, we're looking at 32.
I think I did the calcs, and it was about
10 grand a month.
Yeah. I was saying around 100 grand a year, maybe a little bit more than that. Which is, if you compare that to 2 years ago, it was like $1,000 maybe. so definitely one of those.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
And I suppose this gets to one of the questions my co-host had, which was, value for value is very grassroots. You guys created it, and then a lot of people in the no agenda ecosystem, and now it's starting to spread out where people aren't even aware where it's coming from. And I did an episode on open source and the free software movement, and you can kind of see how words and definitions change. Free software movement, people were getting the kind of free aspect of that wrong, and so they were trying to distinguish between that, and then there was some slight ideological differences, and so then it was open source. And now the average person on the street, my brother, would have no idea what open source is, but he would use it multiple times a day through Android, through VLS media player, through all of the numerous things that are out there. Linux, of course.
The internet itself.
Yes, correct. So in terms of the V4V ethos, the methods, do you see it getting to a point where it's almost behind the scenes, that people don't even talk about it? Because I'm imagining, imagine Spotify, but instead of distributing based on or like half models, where so it'll be someone's paying Spotify $9 a month like they do now, but it's actually getting split up in the back end to the people they actually listen to. So it's kind of got that peer-to-peer nature. That example isn't a great example of it, but it's closer to value for value than not than what's currently going on. So a long way of asking, I suppose, is how far do you see it expanding out? Will there still be shows which have these people trying to do paywalls and things like that?
Well, let me go back to when we started with the value split, with the value block, with value for value. The important part of the value for value system as we've implemented it is the value splits. And the main reason, and I think you can go back and in the early board meetings, you can hear us talking about it. The and this comes back to the open source part of what you're saying. The only way I believe this project has stayed on the rails is because of the value distribution. The idea that an app developer now is in the flow of value has never happened before in podcasting. That's why we have so many apps. Now, it may not be a super large amount. I don't know. Although, Mitch at Podverse, he just took a 3-month sabbatical from work to work full time. Fountain, although I know they've raised money, but you can't do that without showing some income. So clearly there's enough value being spread around that everybody has, at least if they want to, a chance of participating in that. So here's John Spurlock. He doesn't do podcasts. He doesn't develop an app, but he develops a service. Then there's transcribe.fm. All these things start to pop up. This is what they would call traditionally interop. So it behooves no one to try and create something exclusive for themselves, or that something that isn't open or doesn't cooperate with all the rest. So in a way, I think this answers your question, that we have only just begun to see the things that can happen with podcasting. And because podcasting is not just the podcast part, it is the underpinnings, it is the infrastructure, it is all the people who make all these wonderful pieces of functionality work and all participate in the value flow for their efforts. So I think we're just starting to see what will be possible.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much that goes on, I suppose, even behind the scenes. So, for example, for this very show, I think I have about 10% going to app developers. So I put in six of them within the splits. I'm going to get your details after this, and I'll put you in for a 30% for this episode. It is just being able to do that all around and kind of be generous with it as well, which I think is really, it's so nice. It's so fun to be able to do that. It gives me a warm feeling when I create a new split for someone.
And I can tell you from almost 6 decades of life, it's really true. When you freely, gratefully give stuff away, it comes back. It just comes back. It's insane how that works. I can't give away my sats fast enough. I boost all kinds of shows. Like, I think even one time I was listening to your show, but I wasn't listening I was listening on the website. And then when I got home, I was like, I boosted, I think 100,000 sats maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, I got to just boost this to you right now. And I have my streaming sats set at 200, and I've forgotten about that. It depletes my wallet. Yeah. And it adds up, it really does. I'll listen to, I think, Pod News Weekly Review. That's easily 12,000 sats listening to that show just in streaming sats. That adds up, So, and I love that because I completely don't think about it at all. I'm thinking, time to top up my wallet. And I go and look at my notes, like, I got enough here. Fill it up. Let's send it out again. And it doesn't matter how fast you send it out. It just comes right back.
Yeah. Yes. It's the same for me. I think there's been 2 or 3 times where I've had to top up from external sources, i.e. using a credit card or a debit card. But since then, and that was right at the beginning, since then, it's kind of like the amount coming in has always been able to equal the amount that I send out. And plus, a little bit extra that I just keep. And then, I don't know, I'll see what happens with that. And, a lot of that will just go back into kind of like reinvesting into the podcast and things like that.
Sure.
So, yeah, it all kind of works out in the end, which is really, really cool. There was one point I wanted to ask before, but I forgot to. With the V4V music and with all these digital mediums kind of being touched by this, is there this aspect where people are going to have to develop new skills to make value for value really work? So, for example, artists using V4V music, they're putting their music up, Ainsley Costello, and she puts it up and she's had some great success with that. But then you'll know this one, Into the Dorfulverse. Like, that is such an amazing, intriguing family. One of their recent episodes where it was
it's insane family.
It was, I mean, even just the podcast they created was so great. I think it was episode 7 where it blew me away. It was just one of the most bizarre, cool, joy-bringing experiences listening to that episode. But they're very much, talking about, they're kind of becoming podcasters to highlight their music. That's one of the things that they're doing there. Will people have to almost develop new skills, i.e. if you're an artist, a musician in particular, will you then have to somewhat become of a podcaster to make value for value work? Or do you think there'll be these external mechanisms like the V4VJ shows, Boostergram Ball being one of them, that will allow them to have for V4V to work with them without, becoming a podcaster or creating a blog to be able to talk about this? That mechanism, can they just focus on their one thing, I guess?
Well, yes, I believe so. That one thing, of course, always requires some, you have to let people know about your work. And what we used to have is people would do, there would be times in their day and they do a promo tour. Well, these days you don't have to go on the road, but you can definitely schedule, like Julie has promised me, like, when Ainsley has a big new release, can she come on? So of course, I'd love to have her on. Love to talk to her for a little bit and play the new song. And I'm sure she's been on America Plus. I mean, we're going to see a lot of opportunity for artists to promote their work, just like they used to in the olden days. Only now, you don't just get jerked around and maybe they'll play the song. No, people will immediately start boosting you and streaming sats to you. So it's not just for exposure. So yeah, I think the ecosystem will grow very, very rapidly. And look, there's like as we discussed, I'm not big on interview shows personally because it's scheduling and all that. There are a lot of people who are very good at that and thrive on that, and I look forward to listening and boosting lots of episodes to listen to interviews with my favorite artists. I can see where there'd be all kinds. Just look at what we lost. We lost all these great. I mean, you can't even officially play an album on a streaming radio station. You're only supposed to know more than two records from the same album back to back. There's all these stupid rules. I can't wait to hear an entire collection of work from somebody. It's like I listen to these shows too. I listen to In a Mood, It's a Mood. I listen to Lightning Thrashes. I mean, I listen to all that stuff, and I pick stuff up from there, and that's how discovery works. So there's going to be a lot to do for artists to promote their work and get it out there, and they don't have to become podcasters themselves. Now, if they have a penchant for it, great. Into the Dorfulverse is a very, very spectacular podcast. I mean, there's a family of 10 who are sitting around talking about their music and playing it live. I mean, yeah, that's not everyone does that. Not everyone is going to be like that. But just the idea of promoting your stuff and having an actual shot. You know how that works in today's world with Spotify? You've got to buy a placement into some playlist that's popular.
Yeah, gross.
You've got to buy streams from some dodgy company that guarantees 5,000 streams a month. That's how you got to do it. Well, no, that's no good. You come on my podcast, not only will your music get all the sats, but I'll give you 50% of the show itself. I mean, come on. This is going to be great.
Yeah, that's so. I'm so excited just for everything. That the only thing I'm worried about is just for Dave's sanity, because he's going to have to. Music starting to come into the index, and then it'll be video, and then it'll be blogs. Oh, poor Dave.
Well, no, I think that just having this remote item thing kind of fixed and making the GUIDs resolvable, and there's a lot of other smart people in the group who are helping out with all these different things. We'll see. I mean, video. video has been around for a long time. The problem with video is not the index. It's not podcasting. It's storage, bandwidth, codecs, all this stuff. That's the problem there. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. The more people talk about this stupid YouTube podcasting, the more I'm like, you're literally signing your own death warrant in so many ways, particularly hosting companies. I boosted 10,000 sats today to the new media show. I said, you're killing me. Stop talking about YouTube. Just stop. Stop. They want to steal your business. Literally, they want to steal your business. Don't give them anything. Who cares? Dvorak and I always have a joke. Said if we sat here for 16 years with headphones on, you could watch us on cameras. Yeah, we might have been rich. We'd be very unhappy because we'd have to deal with the algos and the advertisers and all of that. And instead, we're comfortable and we're very happy. I'm not even a big fan of video. I'm really not. I really don't. It's like, is that really the future? And is it really because people watch the video, or do they listen to it and sometimes watch? I mean, everyone I ask about Joe Rogan, well, yeah, I put on the video, but I'm usually just listening. Okay, so I don't know. It seems like it takes so much extra effort.
Yeah, I can give firsthand experience of this. So Juan and I tried the YouTube game for a while, and for a while, I mean, like, it's probably only been the last 3 or 6 months where I've really stopped trying on it and putting in like only a modicum of effort. And so that's what, like 3.5 years of relatively trying to get better at it. Obviously focusing both podcasting and the audio and then the video side of things. So I never went full in on the YouTube thing. But what I can say is just, it is the mindset. I don't think you could do V4V with the mindset of a YouTuber. They're almost diametrically opposed, because you have to be focusing on stats. You have to be focusing on the algorithms and what
amount of times you upload the poster image.
Yeah, there's a lot of extra things that go on behind the scenes. And what was the most valuable thing that I got from listening/watching Joe Rogan on YouTube? It was the comment system. I love the YouTube comment system. I think it is the greatest thing about YouTube. And if that went away, my consumption of YouTube would dramatically drop to probably almost nothing. So that's very much where I stand on the video side. I've learned my lesson, hence why we're doing it only audio right now. I repent.
Did you put us in a block on your Value for Value show? How to ask for support?
I put you and Tina in, because I created a split. I'm seeing Adam and Tina. Thank you. You just got 12,555 sats from the Tone Wrecker, and I got my split here. Oh, nice. Awesome.
Just came in.
Good timing.
How cool is that? That's cool.
Yeah. I've been meaning, like, one thing I've realized is I have to actually, it's not even the promotion aspect of, like, I'm giving you sats. It's kind of like, I'm giving you sats, by the way, so you might see some random stuff coming.
Right. Well, it's cool because on Helipad, it shows up as Value for Value, how to ask for support. It gives me the full amount, gives me the boostagram, and I click on this link here, and it says Adam and Tina. I was like, okay, I'm looking at this, and we got a split. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
No, awesome. And then this is once again where it's like, Satoshi Stream, thank you for your service, because I can click onto my Discord and see it automatically there. Yeah, 12,555 sent using Fountain today at 1:11 p.m. So that was 35 minutes ago. So
yep.
Oh man, magic internet money combined with
it's totally with magic internet money. It's totally, sometimes I'll just sit here and just watch one sat after another coming in. I have the wallet for Podcast Index, and we get 1%, so that's typically 1 Satoshi. And it's just so beautiful just to see how many different people are listening at the same time, because it'll be like 15, 20 different 1 sat payments coming in per minute. It's like, that's pretty cool. That's people actually listening to something as we speak.
Have you seen those visualizations of, it'll be like the mempool or a block explorer, where it's showing like, blocks of Bitcoin or transactions coming down? And I think that'd be a really beautiful way to do something similar for if there's an artist out there who wants to do something like that. That would be an amazing graphic to see the streams coming in, what type of shows a boost would appear as like a big blue bubble or something. I think that'd be a pretty fun visualization.
I hope Spurlock's not listening, because that's exactly the kind of stuff that turns him on. He's like, oh yeah, I can do that. That's a cool idea. Yeah.
Man. Adam, I want to thank you and Dave, of course, like, you and everyone else in podcasting 2.0, but you have really changed my life for so much better. And I can't thank you two enough for the work you've done. Everything you've done is it's so cool. So cool. Is there anything I can do for you before we wrap up? And
no, in fact, I was going to say that thank you, because what you're doing is of such immense value to especially the value for value, but even just this, all of this, it really moves the needle every single time, and you've been a big part of this from the beginning. I think, when did you come into?
It was around episode 43 actually, or really? 47. Yeah, it feels like
2 years
late-ish.
ago.
Yeah,
2 years ago. So we were only really just getting started then. So, but no, man, thank you so much. Just keep doing what you're doing. I love the Value for Value show, and because you're spreading the knowledge, spreading the love, spreading the Satoshis. It means a lot, and and it's because of stuff like that everybody feels valued. Not just the value splits, because you do those. Again, I'm like, what? I'm in a value block here. But having different people on, talking to them, it's incredibly important. It's a big part of the community. So no, you don't have to do anything extra. Just keep doing what you're doing. We really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And yeah, well, I as fun as internet friendships are, I really do. I'll definitely be there next year for all the kind of like podcasting meetup / Bitcoin event that's
beautiful.
Gonna go. So yeah, I'll be able to see you in person and be able to express this more in a deeper manner. So yeah, thank you. Adam, is there anything you want to highlight? No agenda, podcasting 2.0, any people want to?
No, man, just everybody get podcastapps.com, get a modern podcast app. Yep. That's all I'd like people to do.
Yep. Brilliant. Cool. All right. We'll leave it there for today. And thank you so much.
Okay, brother. My pleasure.